Welcome to Aunty K's Tarot, your favorite radical queer indigenous auntie, bringing you tarot every day. Hello everyone, and welcome to Aunty K's Tarot. It's hot. It is really hot. It is really humid, and it's not fun. I did go out for a bit today. My kids chose to stay inside. My week, the temperature has been amping up all week. I felt it coming. I've been working all week. Work-wise, the week went so-so. It wasn't as strong as the week before. My phone battery is in trouble. I did some spell work to help with that. I was feeling Mercury and Aquarian energy, and so I got out Mercury and Aquarius card. And I was calling on my own power. My Sun and Mercury are both in Gemini in the 11th house, which is ruled by Aquarius. And so I was like, this is my own energy to be like pulling forward and calling forward on those, energies of Mercury and Aquarius, and my phone's been holding out. It's been working, and I have an appointment coming up to clear it up. I've been doing my daily affirmations with the living altar cards, and that has been great. And I've also been pulling my own Masse Prendre Vie for a daily tarot. But there was a good bit of binding and blocking and protecting energy going on this week, and I made use of the fabulous candle tree I found on the side of the road the other week. I think that was last week. I moved it away from the curtain and a bunch of other stuff because I pulled it out to be like, I'm using all these spots. I'm using the whole damn thing. We're doing like deep roots in trees, we're pulling on that representation, and that felt good and strong. I am tired from the heat. I am tired. I've also been keeping up with what's going on in the world, and it's a lot. It feels like, where do I start to say something? And it all goes back to Palestine. It really does. What's been allowed there will be brought home to the Western world. And so you see AI being used to kill people and hunt people down. You see people being displaced and ethnically cleansed. And then you see these things occur in the US. And if you're paying attention, you're seeing laws passed to allow them in Canada. What you allow will come home. You can't keep allowing settler colonialism to continue. It will end up getting you to. In the US, 10 protesters were charged for attempted conspiracy, attempted murder against ICE agents at an ICE facility because they were protesting at an ICE facility when somebody at a different location outside of that ICE facility are accused of shooting at ICE agents. And so all the protesters were charged. And some people are saying this to be like, this is why you have to be peaceful, or others are saying, this is why if you go to a protest, you have to be peaceful, you have to protect your protesters. No, white people, mostly white ladies. It's white ladies. It is. Even good white ladies are, no, you don't get to be protected from arrest. You don't, the rest of the world doesn't have to play it safe at protests to protect you from being arrested and charged just like everybody else. No, your safety is not more important than revolution. Your safety to go and protest without being arrested does not trump, it's a fun word now, isn't it? Does not trump the right of revolution. White people, your safety as our allies coming out into the streets to defend us and protest for indigenous people, for immigrants, for Palestinians, for all the various minorities. Your safety as our allies does not trump our right to oppose oppression at any cost. And I understand that innocent people will get swept up and harmed by the state. Because guess what? Innocent people are already getting swept up and harmed by the state. It's just not you. And you want to keep it that way. And no, you don't get to keep it that way. This is the tactic of charging innocent people because they're in the same vicinity and shared similar politics to the people who did a criminal act to oppose an authoritarian regime, which morally should be opposed at any cost. It is to make white people scared and make sure they tell the rest of us to be peaceful. White people have been telling us to be peaceful protesters for so long that there are indigenous people who will say crazy ass shit like, we need to do this peacefully, like Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull. They didn't do it peacefully. They were war chiefs. We're supposed to be at war with the settler colonizers and settler colonialism and the invasion of our land. And if you're allies, you should want to end this, because allowing this ongoing settler colonial occupation of the United States, of Canada, of Australia, of New Zealand, that's what allows so-called Israelis to do all this horrific, genocidal, human rights devastation, human rights crimes against Palestinians. That is allowed to happen because you convinced the world that Canada and the United States and Australia and New Zealand have a right to exist on someone else's stolen land. Because you have convinced the whole world that that's what justice and freedom and democracy looks like. Because you have convinced the whole world that you should be allowed to be proud of being a settler colonizer, American, Canadian, Australian, New Zealander. You are responsible for what created Israel and everything they have done to Palestinians is the responsibility of those who believe settler colonialism has a right to exist. And it has to be opposed. And these ICE raids in the U.S., it is part of settler colonialism. The majority of people, the majority of Latinos, because Latino is such a made-up U.S. American Canadian term. It's meaningless, actually. And that's like thinking all Canadians are the same race or all Americans are the same race. Latinos are white, black, and brown. They're indigenous. They're descendants of people who were enslaved, and they are white genociders and enslavers. And that's what Latin America is. And there's a lot more indigenous people alive in what you call Latin America. And that's what makes it a threat to the United States and Canada. Too many indigenous people were allowed to remain. And that's why they are constantly exporting Latinos, ones who all happen to be brown and look like they're Native Americans. But because that's what they're doing. Because they haven't finished clearing North America of the Indians. And you wonder how come Israel can get away with ethnically cleansing Palestinians? Because you're still doing that as Americans, and you haven't stopped. Because you exist. That's why. And so I sound like a broken record. The only route to liberation before this monster eats you too is to destroy settler colonialism. There it is. All right, let's pull cards for this. Doesn't really make it any better yet, does it? Judgment. Do that. Judgment. So 20, 10 of swords. Ooh, 22. Okay, Knight of Wands. All right, so lean on each other. Instead of cutting down each other's tactics, take a risk and support the strange, scary, unknown that the fortune teller is telling you to go for, which is unsettling actions, all tactics, embracing all tactics, and embracing everything. That is a route to the happy squirrel outcome, to the positive outcome, is that acceptance of a diversity of tactics. You're afraid of getting arrested? We're stronger together. And you know what? I hate to say it, but the moment white people are starting to be in as much trouble as everybody else is the moment that maybe, just maybe, you'll actually, for real, join in this fight and see that you've got skin in the game too. Maybe that's what it's going to take. And go watch Andor again. And watch it from the understanding that the only reason Luke Skywalker ever became a hero is because Luthen Rael was an accelerationist. There you go. All right, before we go, folks, we'll have a little... Let me take the battery off. Closer. I'll have a little fish update. Things are going better. Cleaned the tank today. Fixed the filter. I had lowered the water line in case snails wanted to lay eggs. And that top of that skim filter was above the water, and it was messing up my filter. And my filter's working properly again. They'll find their... Look, Chewie's gradually coming up above the water line there. Mon Mothma. I believe she is Mon Mothma. I have seen Mace Windu down here mount her a few times. The baby fishies are growing. The Corys are adorable. They're mostly the same size. I will say that Fondor and Falcon are a little bit smaller than Phantom and Tantive still. And from what I've read, they'll be about a year before they're full grown. These are the fries that are getting bigger. Everyone was out and eating like before I did the video, well, about 20-30 minutes before the video. Now everything's quiet. But that's what Mace is out here doing, eating leftover algae wafer. That's why he's all curled up weird like that. Is he's after that algae wafer.
You're telling me. When am I going to
Shin Hottie swimming back there away from us again. Don't know what I did there. Shin Hottie has recovered beautifully from her time stuck behind the filter, the sponge filter. The injured scales have recovered. No fin rot occurred. So I'm pretty proud of myself that she came out of this injury, and I guess water parameters and such were good enough that she healed really well, and I'm happy about that. I'm really happy about that. Water changes were a good part of the key. And then, you know, I was freaked out that I was having a sponge filter, or not sponge filter, a filter issue, but I have 2 filters on here. I do. I really think I prefer the hang on back, even though it gave me issues and a scare. That was lack of user knowledge, user failure, not really so much filter failure. And the sponge filters are ugly. It's ugly. I made it uglier, but it was ugly anyway. It was ugly anyway. I think I would just as soon throw another bubbler in there and take the filter out at some point, since I have this other filter. I was looking at other tanks online today. I was at secondhand tanks, and I almost got 2 tanks for $50, but that didn't happen, so I pulled it. It's like I'm either gonna get a deal, or I'm just gonna wait till I find an awesome deal. And if that's my criteria for when the next tank occurs, is finding some awesome deal, then that's probably a good way to go about things. We'll see if I actually stick to that plan or not. So not all of these babies look the same. There is slight variation in depth of color, and you know how orange to red they are, as well as, you know, the amount of black on their fins and lips and stuff like that.
I think I'm dying.
And there was one somewhere I noticed that was pretty much nearly peach, and I was like, wow, that's interesting. So we'll see how that coloration continues. Where you'd think it'd be easy to find though, but no, cannot at the moment. Anyway, the fish are doing well, folks.